The city experiences much colder weather today. Mainland's homegrown plane makes fly pass over Victoria Harbour. And Israel admits killing 3 hostages taken by Hamas. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The weather in the city is significantly colder today. The cold weather warning is now in force. The observatory said residents should expect a minimum temperature of 12 degrees Celsius in urban areas. The Mosangai has more.
Many residents woke up to cold and wet weather this morning. Most put on thick layers of clothing. While temperatures in most areas of the city remained at 15 or 16 degrees Celsius, the observatory said temperatures will drop even lower tonight. But some people welcomed the chilly weather. I was still wearing summer clothes in the past few days. It is finally cold now, this man said. The Singaporean tourist said cold weather is a rare experience for her. Singapore is very hot, so we want to travel to foreign places to experience the cold and the feeling of wearing coats, she said. Meanwhile, this chestnut hawker said more customers came to buy these traditional winter treats thanks to the colder weather. Tourists also like to buy chestnuts and sweet potatoes from my store, she added. The observatory said a winter monsoon is affecting southern China, bringing cold and windy weather to the city. It also reminded residents to beware of wind chill effects, meaning the temperature felt by the body may be lower than the actual air temperature. Musnai, TVB News.
The mainland's homegrown aircraft, the C919, flew over Hong Kong and Victoria Harbour this morning. Many onlookers and aviation lovers gathered at the harbourfront and the peak to catch a glimpse of the C919. Mimosangai reports.
Early on Saturday morning, the mainland's homegrown aircraft C919 took off from Hong Kong International Airport. It flew past the iconic Ting Ma Bridge and Tinggao Bridge. At around 10:30 a.m., the blue, white and green liveryed jet appeared in the skies above Victoria Harbour in Tsim Sha Tsui. The plane then circled Lemma Island. The C919 later flew over Victoria Harbour for a second time. It also flew past some Hong Kong landmarks, including the International Commerce Centre, or ICC. At various points during its tour, the C919 flew at low altitudes, at 1,500 feet, 1,000 feet and 700 feet. Despite the chilly morning weather, the peak was packed with residents and plane lovers who wanted to experience the C919 in full flight. I came from Xiamen because it is a rare opportunity to see a homegrown aircraft in a flight class, this man said. This boy decided to take his photos in Tsim Sha Tsui.
I'm an aviation enthusiast, and also the hobby of taking pictures of planes just started recently. It's very fascinating and exciting event to see the plane fly over.
The C919 had its maiden flight in 2017 and only started commercial operations in May. The plane will leave Hong Kong on Sunday together with another homegrown aircraft, the ARJ-21. Mimus 9, TVB News.
The hospital authority has introduced gene therapy to allow patients suffering from spinal muscular atrophy to be treated with just one injection. The first beneficiary in Hong Kong from the therapy is this 10-month-old baby boy. He was diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular disorder when he was just 2 weeks old. The HA said the injection therapy is most effective when used on patients under 1 year old, and the one-time treatment takes away much of the inconvenience in other long-term therapies and medication. The HA added clinical data showed the new dosage remains effective 7 years after the injection. Chinese computer scientist Tang Xiao passed away on Friday. He was 55 years old. Tang, the founder of Chinese artificial intelligence company SenseTime, has been ill. Tang earned a doctorate degree in computer vision from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1996. He then worked at Microsoft Research Asia between 2005 and 2008. Tang founded SenseTime in 2014. The company is well known for its advanced facial recognition systems. Overseas, the Israeli military has admitted that the 3 hostages found dead in northern Gaza on Friday was killed by friendly fire. Israeli troops had mistakenly shot the 3 in a Gaza City neighborhood after soldiers thought them to be a threat. It comes after U.S. envoy Jake Sullivan urged Israel to scale back its attacks on Gaza, where almost 19,000 people have been killed during the conflict. Israel is battling Palestinian group Hamas, which led a raid on Israel on October 7th, resulting in the deaths of 1,200 people, with around 240 taken hostage. Nasri Karim has more.
Israel Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari announced the difficult and painful news to the people of Israel on Friday. He said during fighting in the northern Gaza area of Shijaya, the IDF mistakenly identified the 3 Israelis as a threat because they were not wearing military uniforms. Israeli soldiers fired in their direction, killing all 3. Only later were they identified as hostages. 28-year-old Yotam Haim, 25-year-old Samar al-Talalka, and 26-year-old Alon Shamriz were all abducted on October 7th. They are suspected to have either escaped their captors or had been abandoned. Their killings have ignited anger amongst Israelis who have long protested against what they say is the government's lack of effort to free the hostages.
My reaction, first of all, was grief. These are families that I know personally and people that have been waiting so hopefully for their loved ones to return. And to me, it struck me in the heart, showing me that there's got to be a deal right now to bring them back.
Terrible tragedy, and I think a deal should have been made much, much earlier. And all those lives of all the innocent people could have been spared.
Last month, Israel and Hamas agreed a truce that lasted for 7 days and saw more than 100 hostages released from Gaza, while over 200 Palestinians were freed from Israeli jails. Speaking from a hospital bed, Dahdu said he managed to walk to an ambulance, but 45-year-old cameraman Abu Dakka lay bleeding and died hours later. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, Abu Dakka is the 64th journalist killed during the conflict. Meanwhile, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Abbas told Sullivan that the U.S. must intervene to force Israel to stop its aggression against our people. Sullivan was earlier in Israel, where he urged Israeli officials to scale back their attacks on Gaza to avoid civilian deaths. Nasri Karim, TVB News.
China's permanent representative to the United Nations, Zhang Jun, has called for the full and effective implementation of the ceasefire resolution on Gaza that was adopted on Tuesday. The UN General Assembly adopted a resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, with 153 in favor, 10 against, and 23 countries abstaining. Zhang criticized the double standards and outright hypocrisy in the handling of the Palestinian-Israeli issue. He said beautiful slogans such as human rights, humanitarianism, and protection of women and children have taken on new meaning from some countries. Zhang emphasized that China firmly opposes and condemns all attacks against civilians. The resolution also calls for the immediate release of all hostages. And still ahead, Hong Kong Brands and Products Expo opens at Victoria Park. Vladimir Putin's spokesperson talks about the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Rudy Giuliani, the former lawyer for Donald Trump, is ordered to pay $150 million in damages. Welcome back. This year's Hong Kong Brands and Products Expo kicked off today at Victoria Park. The 24-day fair boasts more than 900 booths and stalls selling food, cosmetic products, clothes, and much more. Chief Executive John Lee said he hopes residents can enjoy the festive spirits by coming out and spending more over the Christmas and New Year holiday season. It's the very first Hong Kong Brands and Products Expo after the city lifted all COVID curbs. Excitement in the air even before the fair opened. charging at full steam, undeterred by the crowd and a little tumble. This is one of this year's most popular booths, which offered goodie bags of dried seafood at a bargain price of $1. But it's going to take some time for you to buy one. Ms. Yun here says she spent $2,000 in buying abalone and dried mushrooms, and she plans to bring her mom to the expo again over the next few days. Other visitors said they enjoyed the bustling atmosphere.
It's actually good because you see a lot of products being brought right here, and we actually got a good buy, $1 for this sausage, which is good. And we plan also, of course, to tour around the expo and have more of this kind of stuff.
The fair also saw the comeback of cooked food stalls after 4 years of hiatus, with egg tarts, an assortment of grilled food, enjoyed by locals and foreigners alike. For the first time, merchants could sell alcoholic drinks at the fair with wine tasting available. Kickstarting this 24-day-long expo was Chief Executive John Lee. After his first stop at the police's booth at the expo, he visited this stall selling semi-dried oysters. He told vendors that his mother cooked dishes with dried oysters very well. Moving on to cooked food stalls, the city leader ate, drank, and got merry. Having spent around $3,000 at the expo, the CE said the Temple Street Night Market, together with the Brands and Products Expo, brought fun and cheer to the city. He hopes the high spirits could extend to the holiday season. The expo will open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. with an extended opening hour until 10 p.m. over the Christmas and New Year holidays. The admission fee is $8. Entry is free for senior citizens, children, and those with disabilities. Overseas again, in Moscow, NBC News spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov. He commented on a series of issues, including the upcoming U.S. presidential election and how Washington is waging a hybrid war against Russia.
Tonight, Russian President Vladimir Putin's spokesman weighing in on the upcoming US elections, calling for dialogue despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
President Putin would like to see someone who is more constructive towards our country.
Could the Kremlin work with President Trump?
I have no doubt that President Putin will be ready to work with anyone who is ready to work with him.
It's illegal in Russia to call its special military operation a war, but Dmitry Peskov says
it is a war. It is a hybrid war that actually the United States is orchestrating against our country.
Saying Russia will still win, even with more US aid for Ukraine.
This is a great mistake of Washington, actually.
But you accept that so far, America's funding and its weapons has been one of the crucial factors that has prevented Russia from reaching its goals.
It's making the story longer.
One independent polling organization tells us half of Russians now want peace talks, though most would not give up territory.
To return back the territories is treated like a surrender.
And on Americans, Paul Whelan and Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who the US say are wrongly detained.
President Putin is always interested in a deal.
They are hostages to the deal you want to do, aren't they?
No, they're not hostages. They're in custody.
French President Emmanuel Macron said on Friday he would still consider talking with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin if it helps create a sustainable peace between Ukraine and Russia. Macron was speaking at a press conference in Brussels at the end of a European Union summit. Macron and Putin enjoyed a good working relationship before Russia invaded its neighbor on February 22, 2022. Their relationship has since deteriorated as the war dragged on. But Macron said he would speak to Putin if the Russian leader was willing to engage in dialogue and respect Ukraine's sovereignty. Macron also described Thursday's decision by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban to block EU aid funding for Ukraine as dishonest, adding that there are mechanisms to get around Hungary's veto.
what Prime Minister Orban tried to present after yesterday, honestly, is dishonest. He blocked the whole box, meaning he blocked financing for migration, he blocked de facto grants for Ukraine, but we can have loans and financing for next year.
In the U.S., Rudy Giuliani, the ex-lawyer to former President Donald Trump, was ordered by a court to pay some $150 million in damages to 2 former Georgia election workers. A jury decided that he defamed the 2 workers through false accusations that they helped rig the 2020 election against Trump. Giuliani was also the New York mayor during the September 11th attacks in 2001. And was once widely praised for his leadership following the incident. This report from NBC News.
Tonight, a jury in Washington, D.C. imposing a massive penalty for election lies, ordering Rudy Giuliani to pay more than $148 million in damages to 2 former Georgia election workers he falsely accused of election fraud.
Today's a good day. A jury stood witness to what Rudy Giuliani did to me and my daughter and held him accountable, and for that I'm thankful.
The judge had already found Giuliani liable. Tonight, the jury awarding more than $33 million to Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman for defamation, $40 million for emotional distress, and ordering Giuliani to pay $75 million in punitive damages.
The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding.
Giuliani had pointed to this video of the 2 poll workers as evidence of criminal activity.
Quite obviously, surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
In emotional testimony, Moss and Freeman explained how Giuliani's false charges led to racist threats that prompted them to leave their homes and their jobs.
Money will never solve all of my problems. I can never move back into the house that I called home. I will always have to be careful about where I go and who I choose to share my name with.
Tonight, Giuliani vowing to appeal and refusing to back down on his claims about the women.
I have no doubt that my comments were made and they were supportable and are supportable today.
Linden has lit up for the holiday season with dazzling decorations in the heart of the city. Tourists and locals spill through the streets of the British capital to do their holiday shopping as carol singers in Trafalgar Square bring festive spirit to the city center. The Christmas tree is the centerpiece at the square, as well as a giant menorah lit up with flames. The sun and various plants were also heavily featured in this year's decorations. Over to sports. Football superstar Lionel Messi and his Inter Miami teammates will play a friendly against the Hong Kong team at the Hong Kong Stadium in February. All tickets were snapped up within 1 hour after sales began on Friday. But scalpers are already on the prowl to resell tickets online at sky-high prices. Tickets for the much-anticipated football match were priced between $880 and $4,880. Plenty of these tickets have in recent days started to appear on resale sites. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung said, people should be careful of tickets sold online because there is no way to confirm whether or not the QR codes from resellers are authentic. Yeung added the government may consider amending legislation to crack down on ticket scalping. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.